cause of why they had a problem. So it's really important to identify both wingtips, the nose, and the tail.
But their challenge is immense. What's left of United Express 6291 is barely even recognizable as an airplane.
The fire was very intense, and it made it hard just to try to identify the different pieces of the aircraft. You see stuff and you wonder, what is it?
We've got the nose over here. We've got the tail over here.
We found all four corners of the aircraft right at the accident site.
And we've got the wings out over there.
So the aircraft was intact until it contacted the ground. And therefore, you can eliminate any structural thing that might have happened during flight.
The plane did not start coming apart in midair. But was the pilot in control? The team needs more information to determine that.
So, main landing gear hit there. Nose landing gear hits up here.
We had marks from the left gear, the center gear, and the right gear.
It's lined up with the runway, gear down, but crash is short.
What we could determine by the ground impacts was that the aircraft was headed toward the airport on a steady heading at the time of impact.
Hey, what do you got there?
As the aircraft descended, its propellers cut through nearby trees. The angle of the cut marks tells investigators the angle of the aircraft as it came down.
Okay, the propeller cut mark started about 60 feet up. Same on both sides. So it came in level.
There was no indication from the tree impacts that the aircraft actually went anything other than in a straight line into the trees and the ground.
The impact marks on the ground and propeller cut marks in the trees suggest to investigators that the pilot was in control of the plane until moments before the accident.
Okay, flaps 9. Gear down.
So then why did it crash?
Hey, bring it in here.
Dickinson and his team soon find a clue, a key part of the wing.
Ice. Looks to be about 1/4 of an inch. Let's get some pictures of this.
It's the biggest clue yet.
We found a couple of instances where you could see the amount of ice buildup. That's always an issue because ice does degrade the performance of an aircraft. And you're always wondering, did that happen in this case?
A buildup of ice on the wings interrupts the airflow over them and increases drag. This results in a loss of lift.
United Express 6291, be advised, just had a report of some icing at 14,000.
Did ice buildup on the wing's leading edges cause Flight 6291 to crash?
Yes. Now that's what I wanted to see. Yeah, they're pretty banged up. Let's get them shipped out.
The flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder are found nearly side by side, deep in the wreckage.
Whenever there's a serious post-crash fire, it could literally destroy the evidence that's needed to figure out what happened to the aircraft. Two of the most important things on any airliner, of course, are going to be the flight data recorder and the cockpit's voice recorder.
If the data locked in the recorders is salvageable, it could break the case. While investigators wait to see if the data on the flight recorders can be recovered,
So we know we had 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice on the leading edge of the wing.
they'll need to find out if a problem with the aircraft's de-icing system caused the crash.
Maybe it was icing.
The most important system that was on the aircraft for icing were anti-icing systems for the wings. Now that's important because, quite simply, the wings provide lift, and without lift, it's difficult to maintain both airspeed and proper control of the aircraft.
The Jetstream 4100 is equipped with a de-icing boot, a rubber membrane installed over the wing edge that inflates to break up any accumulated ice.
Rather than melting the ice, it sort of cracks the ice and the ice falls off because it's no longer able to adhere to the wing.
But damage to the wings
The boots are completely melted.
prevents the investigators from determining if the de-icing system was deployed and working properly prior to the accident.
Looks like we're gonna have to figure this out the hard way.
A lot of the de-icing equipment was burnt and melted. When you have severe fire damage, you never know what's going to be testable and what's not.
We have a cold front running through here. What were the weather advisories telling pilots?
Dickinson hopes the experience of other pilots that night can help shed light on what happened to United Express 6291.
Rime, mixed icing between 2,000 and 19,000 feet.
Did any other flights fly through it?
If other pilots flew through the same icing conditions, they might have experienced a similar problem.
Yes, 2, just before 6291 was due in.
Okay, let's talk to them.
In this case, there were planes flying in the general area, and some of them landed at the airport in Columbus. So it's important to talk to these pilots to find out what the conditions were on their descent.
And it was rime ice?
The pilot of a plane that landed 1 minute before Flight 6291 was due in remembers descending through freezing drizzle.
What do you think you picked up? About a ½ inch? And it didn't give you any trouble? Okay, thanks. Hey, same amount of ice, but no trouble.
The pilot of the other plane reported similar conditions, but neither had problems landing.
The fact that several airplanes landed preceding this airplane under similar weather conditions means the weather should not have precluded a safe landing at the airport.
Thanks for coming in. So you left at 7?
And when investigators speak to United Express pilots who earlier in the day flew the same plane
And you had to de-ice?
through similar weather, they report no difficulties with the plane's de-icing system.
We looked at everything that was involved in the weather situation. They should have been able to fly through this in moderate icing and land successfully. So we went elsewhere.
The air traffic controller was the last person to speak with the crew about the weather. He might be able to confirm what they knew about the ice in their path.
Okay, so take me through it.
They asked to climb to 15,000 feet to avoid icing, so they knew about it.
Okay, does anything else stand out?
Yeah, they came in way too fast on approach. I had to tell them to slow down. United Express 6291, reduce speed to 170 knots.
Reduce speed to 170 knots, United Express 6291.
It's very unusual for an air traffic controller to tell a pilot to slow down at that close to the airport. Pilots can only land the airplane within just a few knots to land it safely. So to get to that point, the pilot had to slow the airplane, and the faster he was going, the less time he had to do that.
It's a startling new clue. But why were the pilots flying so fast, so close to the airport?
Not a moment too soon.
The flight data recordings have been pulled from the damaged black box.
Did they retrieve everything?
It is a relief if you get good data from a flight recorder. The only problem is, if you get really good data, you've got a lot of work to do because they measure everything.
Investigators hope the data from the flight recorders can explain why the pilots flew in so fast and why they never made it to the runway.
Okay, this is the ice that they flew through.
Dickinson and his team have now reviewed the flight data recordings and plotted Flight 6291's airspeed and altitude into a descent profile.
Wow, 240 knots. They are screaming through this. And looks like a slam dunk.
When I looked at the FDR data, it gave me a definite indication that these guys were just trying to get through that icing condition by doing a slam dunk type approach.
A slam dunk is when a plane nears the approach high and then descends rapidly to the runway, often to get through bad weather quickly. But it's a risky maneuver.
The thing about doing a slam dunk is that you can fly really fast to get through ice. But if you don't look well ahead of the aircraft, you can easily slam it right into the earth before you realize that you've done it.
Here, they're going so fast, the controller has to slow them down.
United Express 6291, reduce speed to 170 knots.
And then, speed and altitude drop and drop and drop.
Did the pilots lose control of their plane while performing a slam dunk?
Barely 3 minutes later, they're at 100 knots. What's the airspeed supposed to be?
Operations manual says 130 knots.
So they go from way too fast to way too slow. How'd they manage that?
Investigators turn to the flight data recorder, looking for something that might explain the drastic change of speed.
It's here. They pulled the thrust back to idle, and they left it there. That'll slow you down, but slow enough to stall?
ATC said to slow the aircraft down. And that's what the pilot did.
Reduce speed to 170 knots, United Express 6291.
The trouble is that the aircraft never stopped slowing down.
There's got to be more.
They were doing all this with the autopilot on.
So right up until before they crashed, they were using the autopilot to help them land?
When the autopilot is on during an approach, it controls the aircraft's pitch and roll.
This is a workload reducing sort of thing for the pilot. If they don't have to worry about keeping the aircraft on a particular angle or particular direction toward the runway, they can focus their attention on other parts of the landing.
Here comes the glide slope.
In all the years that I flew in the cockpit as an NTSB investigator, I rarely saw pilots offload the approach to an autopilot. The overwhelming majority of the times, the pilots flew the approach manually. They wanted to do that. They liked doing that because it's fun and because it keeps them sharp. When a pilot selects the autopilot will fly the approach perfectly, but it's up to the captain to monitor and control the airspeed.
So they move thrust to idle. The plane slows down below the safe approach speed, which makes it descend. And the autopilot tries to climb.
Because the plane drops below the glide slope, the autopilot pitches the nose up to regain altitude. But this slows the plane even more. It's what brings Flight 6291 to a stall.
Tony, what did you do?
I did nothing.
What were these guys thinking?
Listening to the conversations on the cockpit voice recorder may be the only way left to solve the mystery of the crash.